Hi, my name is Kyle Russell with Arkansas Wushu, and today I'm making a response video to Gilliam, who asked what kind of freestyle drills do I do. He tried to tag me and Roger Grimes, I think almost 2 weeks ago. I've been kind of procrastinating on getting this down. Anyways, so when it comes to freestyle drills, the first thing for me that comes to mind is shadow boxing. That's pretty obvious, you just get into your fighting stance, however you would fight, and start to throw your punches. But because I've taken multiple styles, I like to think a little bit more about footwork and the hands. So a couple of things to think of is, like, if you've read The Tao Jeet Kune Do by Bruce Lee, you might be familiar with ready stance, where both feet are forward, you're up on the balls of your feet. It's a really quick way to get in, get out, close the distance, get in. And it was a position he liked because you could move in and out of ranges really quickly. But another stance I like to think about is the bladed stance, where both your feet are at kind of a 45, you're squatted down a little bit more. It gives a bit more stability. I feel like I have more power there. So I kind of like to play with these two stances, go back and forth, switching the range, and trying to get more power by switching up my stance. Now, whenever I first started learning to kind of box a little bit, I had been taking Shotokan, Kempo, Wushu, and then I did a couple of MMA fights for fun, so I had to learn a little bit of boxing and stuff like that on top of it. And one of the things they pointed out to me is, because of my Kung Fu training, I would cross my feet a lot. This turned out to be a really bad thing in the ring because, you're more likely to trip over your feet. This cross stance, which I love for the Kung Fu aspect, we come in, hit the kidney, and get out real quick. But whenever you're having to stand there and go for a long time, if you're here and you get hit, it's real easy to get knocked over. So one of the drills they would have me do is take a bar, which I don't have one available right now. They would take a bar and tie it between your legs so that your legs would have to stay the same distance apart the entire time. And that's another thing I like to try to kind of imagine that bar there, and don't let your feet change distances as you move around, and just throw those techniques. Now, besides those different styles of footwork, you've got your more traditional karate and those stances as well, so kind of bring your guard into it a little bit. Now, I know a few guards. Whenever I was in more of a beginner, I like to fight from a back stance, and I like to fight southpaw. It's just a preference thing. A lot of people do that naturally. Since I wasn't made to do the other side, I didn't for a long time. I fight both sides a lot. So in a back stance, I'd always keep one hand kind of down and one hand kind of up. And this is another stance you can kind of play with. It's easy to throw from your front foot because most of your weight's on your back foot, but your back kicks are powerful, but they're really slow because of that weight shift. So again, I kind of like to play with these stances. As a forward stance better. I don't really like fighting from a forward stance. It's square and it doesn't feel mobile enough for me. So, and that's another thing that I think you should do in your freestyle is play with these different stances. You're probably not going to fight on a square on horse stance. Your horse stance is going to be used more for dropping, changing heights, and stuff like that. Alright, so moving on to the different hand positions. I also like to play with these different ways of using the hands. Like I said, this one's one hand up, one hand down. This kind of blocks the lower body. This blocks the upper body. Forearms block the center, and it kind of keeps everything off of you. It's a pretty nice drill. Versus these more square ones, this is where I got a lot of my hits being really fast. Is people would be here in this space in between the hands. Someone really quick with a vertical can get in and out, right? So kind of like to try to keep those forearms in, keep that body tight. And another way to think of that, I've went over in one of my classes before, is a guy I trained with used to just lift his arms up and let his arms sink down until this inside of your arm comes to a rest on your chest. Then fight from there. have to use almost all vertical punches because it's kind of hard to turn over from there. You can do it, but I really like fighting from these different fighting stances, working on these different types of footwork. Another one, for example, is if we look at Wing Chun. Wing Chun has the fixed elbow principle. On the fixed elbow principle, you basically keep your back hand in line with your elbow in your front hand. By doing this, you always have a guard up front, and if that guard misses, a backup just in case. And again, just a little shadow boxing from there can be real nice. So when working those techniques, I kind of like to use tools and dummies. So if I was doing something like that on the Wing Chun dummy for my freestyle technique, I'm going to try this over here. It's easier for me to play with off the frame. Okay. So on the Wing Chun dummy, I can think of these different positions and where am I going to be, you know. If I throw in a double punch and step in, I can kind of use my back stance to get that power kick. Or if I use a double punch and step into a elbow and wind up in a side horse, I'm going to need to throw inverted or something because I want to be too close for a kick or maybe an uppercut. And I really like that about the Wing Chun dummy. You just imagine stepping, come off of it and see where you wind up and then work from wherever you're at. Anyways, so that's kind of what I like to do whenever I'm freestyling, is just shadow box, play with my stances, play with my different guards, bring in my dummy. I'll use this, I'll use a double end bag. I like the speed bag a lot. If you do have a speed bag at home, one of the best things you can do is change directions. Try to time and change directions on that speed bag as much as you can, and that'll be a great drill for you. Anyways, this is my response video to what I do for freestyling. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for the challenge, Gary, and I'll talk to you guys soon.